All right, everybody. So this is going to be part two of our DNS Server Lab. So you have to have had part one completely completed before you start part two. I'm actually going to restart. I'm going to click right here. I'm going to restart both my Windows 7 machine and my server here because I walked away from my computer. It's been a day now, so I might have totally different IP addresses. I just kind of want to refresh where I'm at here. Okay, so I'm going to go to Input, Keyboard, Insert Control, Delete, type in my password here, and then one thing that I want to check before I do anything else, I want to right click on here, open Network and Sharing Settings, change the adapter settings. Let's double check here. I want to make sure that this address right there, remember we set this up in the last lab, it's the same as this IP address right here. So I can just go here, type in CMD, and then type in ipconfig, and we look for the IPv4 address, 192.168.86.135, 192.168.86.135. So again, this right there matches this right there. So you just want to make sure that both of these match. Now, as I said in the previous video, yours are not going to be 192 addresses, but because I'm doing this on my personal laptop at home, I'm using a different IP scheme. The key is just making sure that both of these are the same. Okay, so now that we've done that, the next thing that we need to do, I can close out of this. The next thing that I need to do is I'm going to open up, because we installed the web, the IIS. So I want to open up that manager. And in order to do that, you just open up, it's INETMGR. So we go to our Windows server and we type in start INETMGR, and this should pop up. We click on that, and this is going to open up like our Internet Information Services, but we should see on here under sites, we should see like a default website right here that's been loaded. So you should see default website, and because we see this up and we know that we're good, if I come in here, actually let me use Firefox, and I type in that IP address, the IP address of my server. So this is the IP address of my server. Again, this is the IP address of this. Again, yours is going to be different, but you see that I have this web page running. So by default, we have kind of this, if I hit stop, for instance, and then I hit refresh, now all of a sudden it's like not going to be able to give me a website because I've stopped my internet service. So this is like the default web page for a Microsoft, something that's being hosted, and then I can start this thing back up right here, and now you can see my website's running. So if I wanted to change this, which I will do here in a second, let's pop this open here, and we can go to content view. Okay, and then we have this IIS start.html document. I can just double click on this. So, oh, that's just gonna, whoops, don't double click on that. Close out of this. I just want to close. I'm just going to, we got our default website right here. There you go. If I click on explore, so I have my default website right here. I clicked on default website, clicked on my default website. Under feature view, I have all these. This is where I can control like who has access to it, what do the error pages looks like, should I compress, all that kind of stuff. Click on content view, and then I click on explore, and this is going to give us like all the different files. So I have two files in here. One of them is an image, and the image is just that, and then one of them is the web page. So I'm going to right click on the web page. I'm going to go to open with, and I'm going to open this with Notepad, and I don't really want a lot of this code in here. Just going to go ahead and delete all this actually. We want to type in, this is going to be a super basic website, so HTML head title hello world. Let's close that title. Let's close the head tag. Don't worry if you don't know what this means. This is just very basic HTML. Body. This is my first website. Okay. And then I close the body. Save this. Okay. And now when we refresh this, we have our title up here that says Hello World, and then the text that says this is my first website. Okay, so now we have like a website working. This is like our very first website that we've created. Just says Hello World up at the top. This is my first website. But right now it's going to this one night. We have to type in the IP address of our server. And again, I can't stress this enough. The IP address that you type in here is not going to be 192.168. You're going to type in whatever the IP address is of your server. So whatever you have right here. So you type in CMD, IP config, and then whatever this address is goes right there. Okay, so I got my web server up and running. Looks good. Okay, let's close out of this, close out of this, close out of this. Next thing that I want to do is I want to set up that DNS server. So I'm going to click on Start, and then I'm going to click on DNS mgmt.msc. Okay, and that'll load up my DNS manager right here. I'm going to close out of that. So we have not created really any sites in here yet, but what I want is when you go to google.com, rather than you going to google.com, I want it to go to my first website. So if I open this up right now and I go to google.com, you notice it totally works. And by the way, we're going to have to actually clear out the history once we've gone to it, but we'll do that later. Okay, so I'm going to, on this forward lookup zone, we're going to right click and we're going to go new zone. Then I'm going to hit next. This is a primary zone. Hit next. The zone name is going to be google.com. Okay, hit next. We want to do the both dynamic updates. I know that it's not as secure, but this will allow this Windows 7 machine to update more frequently, so that's good. So it says this option is, it's fine. We want this, next, hit finish. Okay, so now in here we're going to create what's called a record. Okay, so the A record basically says we have this domain name, google.com. Where do we want that to go? What's the IP address? Remember, the whole point of a DNS server is it converts this, the domain name, to the IP address. And again, we're going to want to type in the IP address of your server. So I'm going to type in this address. You're going to want to type in something different, but we're going to type in that address. I'm going to click Add a Host, click OK. And we're going to do one more thing in here. We're going to do what's called a CNAME. So a CNAME allows us to www. So basically, when somebody types in www.google.com, I just want them to go to google.com. So a CNAME is like it forwards it, and we're going to find that A record right there that I just created. So I have that A record. So basically this is saying, hey, whenever anyone goes to www.google.com, just go ahead and have them go right to google.com, and then that'll take them to the IP address of the server. And I click OK. All right, so actually that should be set up correctly now. However, you'll notice when I launch this, it probably won't work. Okay, it's just going to give me an error right now. Okay, the reason that it's giving me an error is because I've previously gone to google.com using this browser, and so it kind of knows where it should go, and then it's like it's not doing a DNS lookup from the server because it thinks it knows where it should be going already. So all we got to do is refresh the history. So if you were using Google Chrome, you got to refresh the history in that, or delete all the history. I'm using Firefox, so I'm just going to right click in here. I go to my options, and then I scroll down in here. I go to, I think it's under privacy and security, and then I just want to clear all my data out. Whoops, clear data, clear. Okay, just so we don't really have any data in there. Okay, so now I open up this and I go to www.google.com. Give this a second. Still not working. That's totally okay. We're going to actually close out of that and we're going to restart this computer right here. Again, sometimes it takes a restart of the computer. Sometimes we got to clear out the history in order to get it working correctly. Alright, pop that open. Open up Firefox. Let's go to google.com, and now it works. Okay, so it just took a restart of my Windows 7 machine, and now look, when you go to yahoo.com, that totally works fine. Whoops. Yahoo.com, that, this website works fine. I can go to like any website, but if I ever go to like google.com now, Google.com doesn't actually go to Google.com anymore. It goes to my first website right here. So, why would somebody want to do this? Well, what a lot of, and this type of I guess it's a hacking attack, but what a lot of hackers or people that do this type of attack, which it happens a lot, they'll redirect and they'll make a website that looks very similar to Google, except they'll put their own ads on that website. So you'll, be browsing the internet and you'll go to google.com and you'll think that you've gone to google.com, and there'll even be like a search box there, and the search opens up a Google search and like everything works fine, except there'll be some ads on there from the whoever's hosting this website, and then they make money that way. Another thing that they'll do is and by the way, this type of attack occurs a lot in what's called bloatware. So like you'll download like WeatherBug was very famous for doing this. Like you'll download a totally separate app, okay, that like monitors the weather or monitors something, and then all of a sudden, or you'll download like a toolbar, but that app changes some of your DNS settings, and then rather than you going to google.com, they route you to a web page that uses Google search, but it has their own ads on there, and then that's how they make money, basically. It's pretty scammy, pretty bad. So now that I have this working, you can see again, like on Internet Explorer, ask me later, like this totally works here, whoops. Okay, MSN works, Yahoo.com works, like all my normal websites work, but then if I go to, my Google.com, all of a sudden it doesn't go to Google.com, it goes to the website that's hosted on there. And I think even like if I Bing searched just Bing searched Google, okay, so like, hey, go to this website right there, I click on the link from Bing, and like it doesn't go to the Google website, it goes to the website that I have hosted on there. URL looks right, okay, so everything looks good, looks legitimate. And by the way, if I go to like, well, I must have some malware installed on this computer or something like that, if we open up that control panel and we take a look under programs, to uninstall programs, there's no malware installed on here. The only thing that was changed was those DNS settings, and a lot of people don't know about those DNS settings. Okay, so this is part two. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video right now. Hopefully you got google.com going to some fake website that you've created. Last thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a program that automatically changes your DNS settings, because we did this manually, right? We went to the right here, we went to open network settings, we went to the change adapter settings, properties, and then TCP IPv4 properties, and we changed the DNS settings right down here. But your mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, they're not going to be doing that. So we want a program. I want to show you like how a program will do that for you. And then we're going to talk about ways to stop this too, and like what to look for to prevent this. So that'll be in part 3. All right. And again, I stressed this in the first video, but I want to stress it again. This is all being done on our local network. So this is the only computer that's connected to this DNS server is our test Windows 7 computer. If you actually did this on the internet and you created a program that had different people attached to your DNS server, and then you redirected google.com to a fake website, that is illegal. It's a federal offense. You will potentially spend time in prison for doing this. So, but people do it, and the whole point of this class is to show me how people do, to show you how people do it, and then how to prevent these type of attacks. So, all right. So I'm going to pause this video or stop part 2, and then we'll begin with part 3 later on.